The town of Black Hollow was old, older than time itself, some would say. Nestled in the valley, it lived under the constant shadow of Mirewood Forest. The forest was ancient, dense and dark. Its towering trees, gnarled branches, and unseen depths held an unsettling silence. Locals spoke of Mirewood in hushed tones. They told tales of strange occurrences, of people venturing in and never returning. It was a place of mystery, fear, and whispers of something ancient and unknown. The forest was more than just a collection of trees. It was a living entity, an entity with secrets it had guarded for centuries. And it was into this forbidding world that Amelia, a young woman with a thirst for the unknown, decided to venture. Amelia was different. She wasn't afraid of the stories. She was drawn to them. The unknown fascinated her. The whispers of the forest called to her. Amelia was a dreamer. Her head was always filled with stories and adventures. She read books about explorers, about ancient civilizations, about the mysteries of the world, but reading about them wasn't enough. She craved real experience. The warnings of the townsfolk only fueled her desire. They spoke of danger, of unseen eyes, and of things best left undisturbed. To Amelia, these were not warnings, but invitations. She was determined to see for herself what secrets Mirewood held. One cool morning, as the mist clung to the forest's edge, Amelia made her decision. She packed a small bag with a notebook, a compass, and a few supplies. Ignoring the worried glances of her neighbors, she walked towards the forest. The moment she stepped into Mirewood, the air changed. The sunlight, dappled and weak even at midday, vanished. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. Amelia felt a chill run down her spine, but she pressed on. The forest floor was soft beneath her feet, a carpet of decaying leaves and pine needles. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the occasional snap of a twig or the rustle of leaves. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, watching her every move. Amelia, undeterred, walked deeper into the embrace of the unknown. The deeper Amelia ventured, the denser the forest became. The trees, ancient and gnarled, seemed to reach out to her, their branches intertwining overhead to block out the last vestiges of sunlight. The silence deepened, becoming almost oppressive. The usual sounds of nature, the chirping of birds, the buzzing of insects, were completely absent. There was only the sound of her own breath and the soft thud of her own footsteps. Amelia began to feel a sense of unease. The silence was unnerving, almost unnatural. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. She stopped for a moment, listening intently. The silence pressed in on her, amplifying her sense of solitude. It was a silence that seemed to whisper warnings, urging her to turn back. A faint breeze stirred the leaves overhead, and Amelia heard it. A whisper, soft and indistinct, carried on the wind. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once.
Turn back.
Amelia froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked around, but she couldn't see anyone. The forest remained still, the trees silent sentinels in the gathering gloom. She took a step back, her hand instinctively reaching for the compass in her pocket. It felt cold to the touch, almost as if it had lost its warmth. The whisper came again, this time a little louder, a little closer.
Turn back, Amelia.
It knew her name. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped Amelia's heart. Terror, raw and primal, surged through her. Amelia stumbled back, her foot catching on a root hidden beneath the leaves. She fell, her back impacting the hard ground, the air knocked from her lungs. The faceless figure began to move towards her, gliding effortlessly over the forest floor. Its silence was more terrifying than any scream could ever be. It was the silence of something ancient, something powerful, something utterly inhuman. Amelia, her breath catching in her throat, pushed her way through a thicket of thorn bushes. A clearing lay ahead, bathed in an unnatural, ethereal glow, and that's when she saw it. In the center of the clearing, tall and imposing, stood a figure. It was humanoid in form, but its surface was smooth, featureless, like polished stone. It had no eyes, no mouth, no face at all. And yet Amelia could feel its gaze fixed upon her, cold and unwavering. Scrambling to her feet, Amelia ran. She didn't know where she was going, only that she needed to get away from that thing. The forest seemed to conspire against her, the branches reaching out like grasping claws, the undergrowth tangling around her feet. She could hear the faceless figure behind her, its silent pursuit relentless. The sound of her own ragged breathing filled her ears, her heart pounding against her ribs like a drum. Panicked, she pushed herself harder, ignoring the scrapes and scratches of thorns tearing at her clothes. The clearing where she had seen the figure was a distant memory now, swallowed by the dense undergrowth. But the forest offered no escape. Ahead of her, the ground sloped downwards, disappearing into a chasm shrouded in shadow. Amelia had stumbled into a dead end, trapped with the faceless entity closing in behind her. Section 8. The earth gives way. Amelia tried to stop, to turn back, but it was too late. The ground gave way beneath her feet and she was plunged into darkness. She landed hard, the air driven from her lungs in a gasp of pain. For a moment everything was dark, the only sound, the ringing in her ears. As her vision cleared, Amelia realized with a growing sense of dread that she was at the bottom of a deep pit. The walls were sheer, formed of earth and roots, offering no handholds, no way out. She was trapped. Looking up, she could see the edge of the pit, a distant circle of light against the encroaching darkness of the forest. Trees swayed in the breeze, their branches outlined against the fading light, but they seemed miles away, and then she saw it. The faceless figure, silhouetted against the sky, was peering down at her from the edge of the pit. It stood there, motionless, its silence more menacing than any growl or hiss. Section 9. Approaching darkness. Amelia pressed herself against the wall of the pit, her breath coming in short, shallow gasps. She could feel the cold, damp earth against her skin, smell the musty odor of decay. Fear, icy and paralyzing, flowed through her veins. That the faceless figure began to descend. It moved with an unnatural grace, its body seeming to melt over the edge of the pit and reform at will. It didn't climb, didn't jump. It simply flowed downwards like liquid shadow, its form shifting and reforming with each passing moment. Amelia squeezed her eyes shut. But she couldn't shut out the image of the creature descending towards her, its smooth, featureless face a blank canvas upon which her terror painted 1,000 horrors. The air grew colder, heavy with the feeling of something ancient and powerful.
There is no escape, Amelia.
Section 10. The vanished soul. Amelia opened her eyes. The faceless figure stood before her, its form solidifying, its presence filling the narrow confines of the pit. She looked up at it, her initial terror replaced by a strange sense of resignation. The whispers grew stronger, swirling around her, weaving a tapestry of fear and despair. She felt herself growing weaker, her energy draining away, pulled towards the faceless entity like iron filings to a magnet. The last thing Amelia remembered before darkness claimed her was the feeling of the creature's cold, smooth touch against her skin. It was a touch devoid of warmth, devoid of life, a touch that seemed to draw the very essence of her being out of her. Then silence descended once more upon the pit. The faceless figure vanished back into the shadows. Its purpose served. Amelia was gone, her scream swallowed by the earth, her fate a mystery lost within the heart of Mirewood Forest. Section 11. The legend remains. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but Amelia never returned from her ill-fated expedition. Search parties ventured into the forest, their hopes dwindling with each passing hour. Their courage tested by the oppressive silence and the unseen eyes that seemed to watch their every move. They found no trace of her, no sign of her passage, as if the forest itself had swallowed her whole, erasing any evidence of her existence. Amelia's disappearance remained a mystery. a chilling tale whispered around flickering candlelight in the shadowed corners of Black Hollow. The legend of Amelia became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers that lurked within the depths of Mirewood. Some dismissed it as a tragic accident, a young woman lost to the unforgiving wilderness. Others, however, whispered of the faceless guardian, of the whispers that lured the unwary to their doom, of the forest that claimed those who dared to uncover its secrets. And so Mirewood Forest stood silent, its secrets kept safe, a testament to the enduring power of fear and the mysteries that lie hidden in the shadows of the unknown.